So, I will be telling today about the experience that we've had at the Druid about building sites with Drupal 8. I will give a little bit of a background story of the project so that you can better understand the whole picture, why we decided to use Drupal 8 and maybe use it in your own projects in the future. But my name is Lauri Eskola. I'm the co-maintainer of Drupal 8 theme system. I also work for Druid. I usually like to thank them during the presentations that I make because they pay me to do this, and they also have paid me to fix some of the Drupal 8 critical issues. I also love kittens besides working. My hobby is to keep adding them to Drupal core, and there's actually almost 100 of them already that I've added to there. And you can find my Twitter handle over there. If you wonder what the picture is about, it is me building the first website I built. So, the case I'm talking about is Lauri Eskola. In case you don't know, Lauri Eskola it is one of the largest privately owned healthcare providers in Finland. The revenue of them is more than 40 million euros. They run multiple websites using Drupal. They have different versions used. They have 6, 7, and 8. One Drupal 8 site and multiple Drupal 7 and Drupal 6 sites. On Ava.fi site that I'm going to talk about today, they have 22 content authors, so they have a good group of people working on the site. And 1 year ago, actually, it was in December. It was pretty much the same time as we are living right now. It was before the Christmas, and they decided that they're going to rebuild the Ava.fi. And one of the goals that we had was to make the brand more visible. So on the last website they had, the brand wasn't very clearly visible, and especially on the location, clinic, and doctor pages, there was a little bit of the brand visible on the front page, but not that much on the other pages. So we had to make the brand more visible on the website. Also, there was more analytical goals that we had. There was the goal to make more reservations made for the appointments. There was also a goal that we have to bring the services that are provided by Ava more visible for the people, so that they know actually what Ava does, what is the services that they do. And there was lots of UX problems with the previous website. The mobile and tablet view that the site had was quite bad. There was lots of things that were not just thought, so the UX was just not very good. So the old website looked like this. On the front page they had a carousel. Nice, carousels are nice, but let's say on the Ava's use case, the rate that it attracted people, it was less than 1% of people that clicked anything on the carousel, and it takes this large amount of space on the most popular single page of the site. So we decided that, okay, no carousel. Also, they wanted to make some lift ups on the front page, so they had 2 lift up places on the front page. But the problem with those was that they were only visible on the desktop. They were not visible on the mobile at all. So we had to figure out a way to make lift ups so that they work on the mobile and the desktop. And there was one of the lift ups was actually even hidden on a narrow desktop mode. And then a little bit about the UX problems. So the phone numbers are on the desktop on the right side, but on the mobile there were no mobile phones at all visible on the website. So if you're looking for the mobile phone number on your mobile phone, you went to the website, you couldn't find the mobile phone number anywhere. So you basically couldn't call them. Then they also had a list of their clinics. No one understands what their clinics are from the client's perspective, from the user's perspective. Maybe their internal employees understand what these are, but no one else understands. So pretty much everything that was on the front page, we just have to draw away, which means that we get to design everything from scratch. Also, this is one of the sub pages they have. This is a doctor page. This is very simple. We just have to make this a little bit more richer because this doesn't really attract people to buy anything from them. Doctors are the product of this company, and this is how they sell their product. And you can buy it from here. So this is a big problem. You can't really buy it from there. So this is a very simple view. You can do this with any system. You can use custom HTML to build these. I guess I could teach them to do this with HTML. But when we add there a little bit extra, when we make it a little bit richer, there's actually some value in it, and it's a little bit more complex after that. There was also other kind of sub pages. There was clinics, but there was no structure or no logic how they worked. Each of them was built individually. They were not very dynamic, but so that it was possible that someone just created them and they were there. But maintaining 20 separated clinics when there is nothing that they have in together was really, really difficult. So when we were doing small fixes over there, we just broke one of them every time. Here's an example of another page. So you can see there's small differences every time. There's no real logic how they work. So we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? We are gonna redesign this and build something else. And this is how the site looks like today. So on the front page, we wanted to clearly bring the product. Here is also the other less common product. So this is the most common product they have, the general practitioner. This is where people usually go when they first buy something from them. And then we brought the other services they have. So this is going to fulfill that goal that we are going to bring the services better on visible on the website, and we are going to attract them to buy something from the website. When we go down, here is the lift ups that they needed. Here is also when they don't have anything to lift up, they can just put their static services over here. When we go down, we have a branding block that is visible on all the pages. Then we have basic footer that basically doesn't make much difference from the previous website. Example of a location page. So the doctors, clinics, and locations now all follow the same structure. They are all a little bit like this. So we have here a branding picture. We have map so that they can see where the location is. They have phone number that is actually visible on the mobile also. They have tabs so that not all the information is on the one page, because there is quite a lot of information about one content. And then we have a dynamic block of the reserving appointments for the context of the page. So if you're on the location page, it figures out what is the best appointments I should be serving for this page. If you're on a doctor page, it serves the appointments for the doctor. If you're on a clinic, it serves the appointments that the clinic serves. If you are on a service, it will provide appointments for an expert in that service. Lots of body content, and then we have the opening hours. They are pretty important for them because lots of people are looking for them. So this was what we were going to build, and this was like, okay, we have to build this using Drupal 8, maybe. But how everything started was, the first thing we had to do was to figure out whether we are going to retheme or rebuild the site. And so we started in last December and November to create some new features on the previous website, so that we get to know better with the last website.
What was it built on before?
It was built on Drupal 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for not giving the context. Anyway, it was built on Drupal 7, so we started building new features on the site. So some of the features that we knew that are going to be on the new site, we started implementing over there. And then we got to see better how things work over there. And then we figured out, okay, this is not going to work out. We are not going to retheme this. Because of the data was pretty bad, the structure of the data was not the best, because there was lots of cross-references and there was references to things that shouldn't work how they were built. And there's lots of code that needs to be refactored anyway. So we decided that, okay, we are going to rebuild this anyway. So it doesn't matter if we are going to do it on Drupal 7 or Drupal 8 in that sense, because it has to be rebuilt anyway. So because of the migration is needed already, we can decide whether we are going to build this on Drupal 7 or Drupal 8. And then we started figuring out, okay, are we going to do this on Drupal 8 actually in the real life? Because first it was just a crazy idea that we had. And then we started creating the pros and cons for building something on Drupal 8. And the pros that we have for Drupal 8 was that Drupal 8 has really long life cycle, obviously. And if we do the data structure the good way, if we make it good, if we take time and actually design it and make it work so that they can use it for multiple years, they can start using Drupal 8 then, because they have support for maybe 10, 15 years or something. And whenever they need to rebuild the site, maybe some facelift or reteaming of the site is enough. Also, many of the features that they needed was built in Drupal 8. So we didn't really have to rely on that many moving parts when we are building this on Drupal 8, because many of the things were in Drupal 8 core. But there was also multiple things that they needed that wasn't available anyway for Drupal 7. There wasn't contrib, there was no other way to do it. So that also makes us more convinced that Drupal 8 is the way to go. Also, in the first, when we were trying to compare the price of building something on Drupal 7 and Drupal 8, we thought, okay, maybe in the short run, building something on Drupal 8 will be more expensive. And building it in the long run on Drupal 8 can be then more cheaper than building it on Drupal 7. But what we actually figured out with the client after the project, after the first phase of the project or after the release, that they thought that it was actually cheaper to build it on Drupal 8. That was mostly by feeling, because they haven't had exactly same project on Drupal 8 or Drupal 7 or any other platform, but they say that their feeling is that it was cheaper to build it on Drupal 8. So there is no statistics for that, but they felt that they didn't pay anything extra to build it on Drupal 8. And obviously there was for both of us, but what we were surprised, that even Ava as a client thought that building something on Drupal 8 could be cool, and they could use it as something that makes some revenue out for them. Then also we had some cons, because not everything is just perfect. So obviously 1 year ago, Drupal 8 was not even close to stable. But what we actually figured out with that's more, when we think long term, it's going to be stable at some point. So that's not going to be, that's more a short term problem that we are having. If we can get over that, we shouldn't have the problem in long run. And what we figured out when we were building it on Drupal 8, that it was way more stable than we actually thought. So we didn't really have a problem with the stability, but that was one of the cons we listed when we were building it on Drupal 8. And also the lack of contributed modules was one of the cons that we had. So there is a risk, if they want to implement something that is not in Drupal 8 core, or there is not contributed module for that, that it couldn't be done. But we discussed that with the client, and they were happy that maybe it could be implemented in later phases, or maybe we can find some other way to do it. And we didn't really have any problems with that. There was maybe like few things that we were having a little bit of a problem at some point, but then we waited like a month, and then we had a pre-made solution for that. So I think it was 2 weeks of discussions with multiple people. We were talking with people in the Drupal community, we were talking with the business owners of the company, and we were talking with everyone, what are we going to do, and what are the goals of the project, and what's going to happen after this, and so that we have the best knowledge possible to make the decision. And then we together came into consensus to build it on Drupal 8. So now we can proceed to how did we actually do it? How did we make it happen? So, migration module for Drupal 8 was not even close to be ready when we started building this. So, we had to build our own migration. So what we did to make the migration happen was we built a a custom migration module that was based on Drupal 7 services module, which will output some JSON out of the Drupal 7. And then on the Drupal 8, we built a custom importer that was inspired by migration, but it was way simpler and way more stupid than the migration module. And then we managed to make it work. Actually, what we figured out that making this custom importer wasn't that bad after all, because we had to make huge changes in the data structure anyway. So we would have had to be writing anyway quite a lot of custom logic to make that happen. So maybe we lost some time there, but I don't think we lost too much time over there. All the code we made for the migration is available in GitHub. I don't think it's working anymore. Maybe it is, but it was more for the people that were working on Drupal 8 projects 1 year ago, because there was no migration module, so it was nice to provide an example. Okay, this is how we did it, and then they could use it. So on the old website, they had 14 node types. We converted them into 11 node types. That doesn't actually tell the whole picture because on the old website there's field groups and multi-fields being used, but we converted all of those into new node types. So we removed multiple node types that existed there, and then we created new ones on the new website because we didn't use multi-fields or field groups at all. There was 4,000 nodes over there, so the migration had to be built. There's no way to copy paste 4,000 nodes manually. And there was 200 taxonomy terms, just to give some statistics. So the migration can be very interesting. So if you have any questions about the migration, you can ask me about that, but I won't be talking about that too much right now. So also we had to do some site building. In the beginning, we thought that the site building is going to be the difficult part of building the site. But what we figured out was that actually building sites with Drupal 8 was quite simple, and it was easier than in Drupal 7. So site building was quite awesome using Drupal 8 because there was no time spent at all on features or anything like that. Basically, that is just working around the lacking features that Drupal has, and we waste a lot of time on those. So we could save lots of time by using just the configuration management and using it for this. Also, what we figured out, that configuration management is actually pretty good when there's multiple developers working on the one thing. So let's say when you have merges, the YAML files are quite good at solving the problems on the merges. And whenever you had any merge conflicts, it was really easy to just manually solve them because YAML is very readable by humans. So it made it a lot easier than in Drupal 7. So the contributed modules we used when we started building this site, actually these are pretty much the contributed modules that are still the same. There's few exceptions, but few extra ones added, but these are pretty much the modules we have. So the biggest module that we used to build the site was Display Suite. And I think using Display Suite for this project was the right decision because Display Suite was quite stable already when we started building it, and we also managed to fix lots of bugs in Display Suite because of our site, because we were doing quite complex things with Display Suite. Also, we used FormBlock. So what FormBlock does, it's a module that turns the Drupal 8 core's contact forms into blocks. We use the inline entity form because we have lots of entity references. We use the inline entity form to help the content authors to edit the content so that they don't have to manually always reference the stuff and then go edit somewhere else and blah, 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 blah. They could use the inline entity form. Inline entity form was also one of the things that was broken multiple times, and we had to just fix it to make it work on our site. Then in the cycle, we started using MetaDAG. I think this is not that old module that on the site. So we use MetaDAG just to change the meta tags of the site. The path auto was a necessary module that we had to have when we started building the site. So path auto wasn't working almost at all when we started doing the site. So we had to basically fix everything inside path auto. But path auto was actually not that complex module, so we figured out a way to make it work. And because of path auto, we had to have the token module also in there. Then we also had the views field view to show views as a field, so that we can make the field outputs look how we wanted them to look. So here's a nice number. So on the Drupal 7 site, the client that Ava had, they had 101 contributed modules installed on the site. And on the Drupal 8 site, they used 7 contributed modules. This is partly because we removed some of the functionalities they had, but not all because of that. I would say most of it is because of the fact that Drupal 8 has so much more stuff inside the Drupal core that you don't need that many contributed modules. Also, many of the core functionalities are more extensive, so that you don't need a small contributed module just to extend it a little bit and make it work how you want to. So that was a nice thing to figure out, that with Drupal core you can actually do pretty much already. One of the problems we had was that node queue wasn't available at all for the Drupal 8 back then, and we started building the site. And on the front page, we had the lift tabs, and many people use Node.js to build the lift tabs. So this is one of the good examples that you can figure out when you think a little bit a way around this. So we use taxonomy terms for this. This is not the best use of taxonomy terms, I bet, and I agree with that. But it was a very easy decision to make because it does exactly what we need. So by using taxonomy terms for this, we could just replace writing a whole lot of custom logic. Anyway, what they wanted was they need their own custom node type to reference nodes. So it didn't change the way they work with the site at all. It more of a changed the way it was built. So we just used taxonomy terms for that. The location page, how that was built, display suites. So over here, we have, this is its own view over here. This is the display suite over here. This is one of the exceptions we have on the site. So this is not built using view mode. It could have been done, but there was, if I remember correctly, there was a problem with the way it works on the mobile phone, so that we wanted to build it using views. Anyway, we use the view modes for pretty much everything. So this is how one of the view modes we used look like. And one thing you can notice, so on the right side there is the next appointments block. It is a block. So we use blocks inside the display suite, the field configuration. That was pretty nice. It worked pretty well for us, and that's what we did. We just placed blocks inside the nodes also. Then in the tabs, you might have seen there is contact details page. That was also its own view mode, and we just built a very simple custom module that shows different view mode of the node in different URL. So let's say if you go to node /123/contact-details, it would show a different view mode of the node. That's very simple because you can just use everything that is in the node module. You just have to change one thing, that instead of using the full view mode, it uses this different view mode. So this kind of things, in Drupal 7, you might have had a different way to do this. You might have used panels, or you might have used something else. But in Drupal 8, what we did was actually really fast to make happen, even though it wasn't the way we would have done it in Drupal 7. So the tabs I was talking about was one of the big problems we had on the site building. So the tabs we have over there, they are local tasks. Does everyone know what local tasks are on Drupal? You don't know what? Okay, so local tasks are links that are essential links for the page. So they are links that are related for the current page you are at. So let's say if you're admin, there is local tasks, there is view, there is edit, there is revisions. So those are the local tasks. They are like related links for the current page you are at. And the local tasks were not working very well with us because they are not designed to be used for the anonymous users, because someone has thought that only admin users can use this. And in Drupal 7, admin users don't have caching at all by default. So yeah, we don't have to care about caching at all. So whenever there was local tasks, for the anonymous users, it actually broke the whole size caching. So there was no cache being used at all. And because of that, in the Drupal core, we had to move those local tasks into a block. And that's why, if you wonder why title, why local tasks, and brand block, why everything is now a block, the reason is this, so that we can cache them somehow. And they kind of like follow the general practice that we have, that everything is a block. But not only that there was simple subpages, we also had they were able to add nodes as an subpage for a location or clinic. And how we did this was just a simple entity reference from the node to another, and then where we build the local tasks, we just look for the reference nodes. So let's talk a little bit about the backend. here is a list of all the modules. I will post the slides, so if you want to take a look what modules we have built over there, you can just take a look on this one. I won't explain all of them over here. They have descriptions and everything. So we had 29 custom modules built on the site. It might sound quite a lot, but actually it is not that much. Only 7 of them are modules that are extending some of the core or contributed modules functionality, maybe fixing a bug or doing something just to support the functionality of something code in somewhere else. So the rest of them are logic that the client needs because of they have integrations for other systems and they have logic that that they need. So maybe this gives a nice idea. So this was built 1 year ago, and we needed 7 modules to extend the functionality of Drupal core content. That we didn't actually have to find that many workarounds for things. So most of the modules that we actually had to build contain site-specific business logic that doesn't just simply exist anywhere. And in Drupal 8, what we figure out by we were building the modules, that you don't need a Drupalist to build the module because they are following more widely used practices. You can use PHP libraries as an extension for your Drupal module, and we also have a Silex application that the Drupal site is connected into. So the people that were working on the Silex application were really easily able to work on also the Drupal module to make the integration. Testing is an important part of the backend. In Drupal 7, there is not a good way to make unit tests. In Drupal 8, there is unit tests in Drupal core by default, and making unit tests is really simple because it's OOP and PHP unit is in the Drupal core. So we use mostly unit tests in the site. We could have used bhat also. We used on our Drupal 7 sites we built for Ava, we use simple tests and bhat tests. But now we ditched both simple test and bhat. We could have used bhat also, so unit test doesn't replace bhat at all. Bhats are more for the front-end logic, and we could have used them, but there is not that much front-end logic on the site. It's more on the back-end side. So unit tests gave us a good coverage. And the reasons why we decided to use unit tests instead of something else is because they're really fast to run. So you can actually use them during the development. You can just run the test and see by the test results if your code is working or not. They are very easy to maintain, so the cost for the maintenance in the long run is very, very small because they're specific for a small piece of code. And when you're refactoring a small piece of code, you have to refactor only one test because there's not many tests depending on that piece of code. It also works as a method to point out bad code. So bad code rarely is testable by unit tests. So it's very good for that also. And one of the good things we figured out was that you can give a report of the coverage of the tested code. Obviously, the biggest con of using unit tests is that they are a little bit more expensive than other tests to create. Not that much, but they are the most expensive tests to create in the beginning because you have to write a lot of them because you have to write them for each class that you make. But what we figured out was that it wasn't actually that expensive. And I would say that the client doesn't even notice that we have been writing tests all the time. It is not something they have to care about. It's something that the developers have to care about, and they care about that the site is actually working as expected. Some of the open source code that we have, if you're interested to look like what we had to write for this site, is available in GitHub and Drupal.org. So I'm going to briefly explain what these are. The contact form formatter, because the contact forms are entities, you are able to reference them with entity reference, and we wanted to be able to output them using the field formatter. So it creates a field formatter for them. Then there is also a sub-path auto, because we had the sub pages for the nodes. We had to have the path auto working for the sub pages also. And then there is also a node type negate module that is used to create a negation on the node type selection on the block display. So if by default you can choose, okay, this block needs to be visible on basic page and article, but you can't tell, okay, this block should be visible everywhere else but article. And that makes actually quite a big difference because if you choose every node except one node type, it won't be visible if you're not on a node page. And we wanted it to be visible also on the pages that are not node pages. We also had to fix multiple bugs in these modules. So so we were, to be honest, we were early adopters when we were using Drupal 8. And what we figured out was that fixing many bugs would have been nearly impossible if we would have been building Drupal 7. So we would have had to be creating workarounds for those bugs. And that's what most of the people do all the time when they work on Drupal 7. They write their nasty hacks in a hook or in some other place because they can't fix the bug inside the Drupal 7 core. And most of the time, finding these workarounds is a lot slower than actually fixing the bug. Why it is pretty nice that you can actually just go hack the core and fix the bug in a few minutes and then post a patch for Drupal.org, and then you are done with that. On the other hand, there were some bugs that didn't exist on Drupal 7 but existed on Drupal 8. I would say more than half of the bugs that we were experiencing with Drupal 8 was bugs that existed in Drupal 7 and the Drupal 7 contributed modules that we use. So the ones that were not in Drupal 7, they were kind of like overhead that we had because we were early adopters. But that was 1 year ago. That is the experience I have 1 year ago. So I would say that the situation is a lot better right now. Obviously we had frontend because of the site looks like something. There was no contributed themes available back then at all because there was no stable frontend at all back then. So we built on top of Classy, and we used Sass, Max, and BAM to build the site. That's pretty basic set, I would say. The thing that was a little bit special on the project was that we had one style CSS that was the necessary stylings for the site that is needed on every page. And then we had this set over here that is all about blocks and components. And this was used to attach styling for specific components or specific pieces of functionality that we had. So let's say on a front page, we have specific CSS that doesn't apply on any other page. We load that only on the front page, not on any other page, which makes the site lighter because the browser doesn't have to read all that CSS through on the other pages. We have 52 template overrides. I would say that's pretty basic. But in Drupal 8, you can use static extend functionality. So these are not, each of these are not copies of other template. Many of the templates look like this. They're 3-liners or 10-liners or something like that. So they are very easy to maintain because they don't contain much logic. If you're not familiar with the extend functionality, it is just a way that you can modify one piece of a template in another template, which makes kind of like a logic inside the templates. One of the problems we figured out was that Drupal 8 doesn't support testing if something is empty, because everything is lazy. So everything can be rendered at any point possible. So let's say if you have a sidebar and you have content over there, the content of the sidebar can appear over there at any point. So you can't test if the sidebar is empty or not. So the design should be somehow reflected for Drupal 8. And because we didn't make these design decisions when we were building the site on Drupal 8, we had to use CSS to figure out a way to hide the sidebar with CSS and somehow figure out if it's empty or not. Also, in one very specific use case, we had to fall back into using early rendering, which means that we had to render the block manually in the backend and see if it's empty or not. Probably one of the most interesting parts of building this site was the performance. So on the Drupal 7 site, because of everything on the site has to be up to date all the time. On Drupal 7, what the developers of the site has decided was that, okay, we don't cache anything at all to show always up-to-date information, which is kind of like easy decision to be made in Drupal 7. Because in Drupal 7, building a real caching logic is really complex and takes a lot of time, and if you don't have the time, then you can't really do it. But in Drupal 8, we didn't have the time to make that. But we used the internal functionality of Drupal 8, and we had everything working. So we used the internal page cache and internal dynamic page cache. It's easy and fast to configure. You don't have to do anything. You just have to turn it on. Because there was no reason to use Varnish, because it's still quite a small site. They don't have multiple servers or multiple Varnish servers or anything like that. They have only a single server where in a more classical site we would install Varnish, and then that would be it. So we could use internal page cache as it is. And by default we have defined the cache max age to be 1 day. We are using cache context and tags for everything. So we know where a single piece of content is shown always. So we know if a piece of node is displayed on the front page or any other page, we know that it's there, and this cache has to be emptied when it's being modified. This is how the performance looks. This is with the Drupal's internal page caching. Here you can see some cron runs happening on the server, but over here, this is the most popular time of the day for them. It's the morning. People need to get time off from the work. They go there. They go to the site, and there's pretty much nothing happening. You can still see that the network traffic is going up all the time. On the front-end performance, I did a bit talk about this already, but we use libraries for everything, so we don't load unnecessary JavaScript. We don't load JavaScript unless necessary. And Drupal 8 doesn't load jQuery by default. So we didn't use jQuery, we just used JavaScript. And we just load the JavaScript wherever we only need that. Our internal target was to make it load in 5 seconds with any device, but yeah, we didn't quite make that, but we didn't try at all. So it was without further optimization. We had a page load of 7 seconds using Lumia 630, which is like so I bought that 3 years ago. I went to a store and said, I want the worst phone, the crappiest phone you have here. And they gave me this. And it loads in 7 seconds using that. On a modern phone like iPhone 6s Plus, it loads under 2 seconds. So the difference is quite huge with the old phone. So if you wonder what you should be building on Drupal 8, there's probably the biggest con that we have right now is the lack of contributed modules. So it should be the only thing stopping you from using Drupal 8. And that's why I got a link over here that you can use to check what is the status of the contributed modules you need, or contributed modules in general. It has all the major contributed modules on one board, and it shows the status of those modules. You can use it as a helper to try to make decision if it fits, if the product fits for Drupal 8 or not. We are done. Not exactly in 30 minutes, but almost. Yeah.
So did using display suite, did it free to completely from like theme programming?
Not completely, but many of the things that you would do in the pre-process or in the template, it freed us up from that. So we could move lots of logic that would be in the templates or in the pre-process function. We could move it in the configuration. It did help, but it didn't remove it completely. We had more, I would say, what we had there left was more a configuration that was more dynamic, that you can configure on the display suite. So let's say you don't want to create view mode for each of these cases because there is just one very small difference. Then you might want to do it in pre-process function. Then there was also some global changes we wanted to make for display suite. So display suite 1 year ago didn't have modern markup, so we did override the markup back then. But now they have modernized the markup, so that's not relevant anymore. But kind of yes. Yeah.
Yeah, then for the content entry, I guess it was maybe beta 5 when you started or something like that. Then did you have to do additional migration from one beta to another because I had to copy paste some things at some point?
Yeah, I actually wanted to include that in my presentation, but I didn't think that it would be relevant for that many people, so I removed it because it's already quite a lot of information. So what we did was I had like 9-step thing that we did. I tried to remember it because that was the best way I found to express how we did it. But what we did first was we just updated the Drupal core, updated all the modules for the latest version. Then we had a wide screen of that. That's what you probably had also. Then we read through all of the change records and tried to figure out what is the reason for the white screen, fixed that. After that, we had a site that is pretty much working, but the configuration is completely messed up. And after that, you have to read all the change records again and write upgrade paths for each of the ones that is affecting your site. So when we did the migration, we didn't do migration, but we did the upgrade path from. So we did beta 4 to beta 7, I think. It was beta 7 when we launched the site. So beta 7 was actually the release that we had to care about, because then we had the migration done from the old website, and then we had to migrate from the beta 7 to release candidate 1. And it took maybe it took 2 weeks. It took 1 week from 2 people to write the upgrade paths for everything. So that's probably a good way to measure how much time it would take you to write the upgrade paths for each of them. But it's quite a lot of work to write the upgrade path for each of the things. And then it's like, okay, you have it now working, but is everything still done? And then we didn't have everything covered from the beta 7 till the upgrade path was supported by Drupal core. So we had to fix something after that. And then things became quite complex. But if you can get everything fixed before you got the upgrade path from, I guess, is it beta 12? No, there's actually beta 9 or beta 8 from the head-to-head project, that is contributed project. So you only have to get it to beta 8 or 9. And then you can use the contributed project. And then there's, after the contributed project ends, then there is the core support for the upgrade path. Any more questions? I guess not. Then we can discuss freely about how awesome Drupal 8 is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauri.
Okay, now we have 45 minutes.